Welcome to Morning Java, brought to you as always by Get Go Cafe and Market, where right now they're doing 7-inch subs. It's great. I still get fresh food from Get Go all the time. Dale, I don't know about you, but in these trying times, I need a quick fix on a sandwich, and Get Go's always delivering.
You notice they're doing a seven-inch sub.
7-inch subs.
It's 7-inch sub because seven's a kind of an important number in Pittsburgh.
Why? I don't know any reasons why 7 would be important, especially this year, or if there's a player that wears number 7. I don't know. Anyways, I'm Chris Carter here with Dale Lawley. We're gonna talk to you about the draft today a lot today. But first, Dale, let's go over this Zoom press conference that Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin had, which was very interesting to say the least. But there were a ton of takeaways talking about all the players that they talked to and going over the process that they've had to adjust to. There were some mic issues from Jerry Dulac. What was your biggest takeaway from the meeting and the information that you got?
You can put Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin in their homes where they're nice and comfortable. You can have them sit and talk about the draft, which they like to do, but that doesn't mean that they're going to tell you who the pick is going to be. That's the main thing I took out of it. But yeah, I mean, Kevin Colbert said that they've spoken to they did video conferencing, much like what we're doing now with 37 different draft picks.
Wow.
And so they have 140 guys that that will be on their list. And I know people may look at that and go, well, there's going to be more than 140 people taken in this draft. They're guys that they don't have on their draft board. If you look at it, maybe it's a position that they don't intend to take unless somebody really falls. Because what will happen is they'll have two boards. They'll have their main draft board, and then they'll have everybody else on this other board, and they'll still have them ranked, but they don't take those guys unless there's a real value there, or they get to the 7th round and like, this guy probably should have gone by now, but unless he murdered somebody, we'll take a chance on it. There's a number of reasons why they might not have a guy on their main board. Maybe it's medical. Maybe they don't have enough information on them. Maybe it could be character issues. It could be any number of things, as I mentioned. If it's something if it gets to the point where they're comfortable taking that guy in that spot, maybe they weren't comfortable with him in the 2nd round, but in the 7th round, maybe they take a shot. We have some medicals on him, but not all of them, or, this is supposed to be cleared up by training camp or something like that. Then maybe they take that chance and take that guy. So they have that board of 140, and their draft picks will largely come off of that draft board, and they're only taking 6. So it's a little interesting this year. And as Mike Tomlin said, that first round on day 1, they're going to largely be spectators.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that that they're acknowledging, look, we're not going to be able to trade up into the first round. They're just going to kind of see where the boards are, because that's going to determine a lot. Is when they're looking at who's still available in the 2nd round. You and I, we've projected a lot. There's going to be a lot of wide receivers that come off the board, offensive tackles that come off the board early. But, say running back flies off the board earlier than everyone expects. Not that I think it will, but then, that they have to go into day 2 a lot different. What were some of the things that you took away from how they were talking about position-wise, as they emphasized the wide receiver position? Some people take that as, oh, maybe that means they're drafting one earlier. I took it as we know it's so deep. There's no reason to jump unless it's a guy that we absolutely believe is a future number 1 guy.
Well, I have about 8 guys in this draft that I would take, 8 wide receivers in this draft that I would take before any running back that's on the board.
Are these realistic picks that are the 8 guys, or are these just the top 8 guys that are wide receivers?
There's 8 of the top 10. My top 10. The 2 guys that I wouldn't necessarily take that high would be Laviska Shenault, because I don't think he gives you enough difference from Juju, and the injury issues with him concern me a little bit. And then I would look at I don't know that I would take now I'm forgetting now, but I like Michael Pittman if he's there.
Yeah,
I like Jalen Reagor if he's there. I like Ayuk if he's there. You could go on down the line with these guys. They all offer something a little bit different. Reagor and Ayuk are deep threats. Pittman's a bigger bodied guy that, can help you in the red zone. To me, guys like KJ Hamler, I'm not interested in, this tiny, yes, he's fast, but he's small.
Right.
I don't know what you do with him. He's going to strictly be a slot guy in the NFL. I don't know that you're looking for that, but if they can get a true number one type receiver, and as I said, I think there are 8 guys in this draft that fit that mold as a true number one type receiver. You grab one of those and you're happy with it. I take those guys over any of the running backs.
All right, Dale, you've been doing your NFL Draft Daily column all leading up to this, getting us prepared, letting everyone know what kind of prospects are out there. Today, you have the interior defensive lineman, namely the nose tackle position, coming up. Now, everyone's worried about the position because of Javon Hargrave. He went to the Eagles for huge dollars. They haven't made a huge addition to this position. They've gotten some guys from the XFL. They've got Chris Wormley off the Ravens. But who are the guys? My first question, would it be reasonable? Do you think it's going to happen at all if there's a guy that's in the second round that they would jump at that opportunity, even with how little they're using 3-4?
No, I don't think so, and it's because of what you just said and the fact that there really aren't any true nose tackle types that are rated that high. The great thing about being in the market for a nose tackle is that those guys usually fall in today's NFL because they aren't asked to rush the passer a whole lot, and you're not going to use what limited draft capital that you have this year on a guy who, first of all, may be the backup to Tyson Alualu at nose tackle. And secondly, even if he wins the starting job, he's going to be on the field about 40% of the time.
Right.
So, I think that you wait till rounds 3 or 4. They've got those 3 picks from pick 102 to pick 135.
Mm-hmm.
I think that nose tackle position gets filled somewhere in that range.
That's where I wanted to ask you is where do you see the reasonable pick coming from, which you basically answered in those middle rounds. But who are the players that you have on your list saying, you know what, these are the guys and how I rank them and how they fit into the Steelers system?
Well, I think you look at Davon Hamilton from Ohio State,
Yep.
A big-bodied space eater in the middle, has a little bit of pass rushing juice, which maybe I would push him up a little bit higher than a guy like Lakey Fotu, who's a classic nose tackle type run stuffing. Is not going to give you a lot as a pass rusher.
Right.
But man, he plugs the middle like he blocks out the sun.
Yeah.
He's a much more athletic version of Daniel McCullers, much more just has a former rugby player, has a little bit
he has a better motor.
Yeah, a much better motor and will eat up the blocks. And if they do that, if in the third or fourth round, get a guy like one of those two, their line is fixed for a number of years. They've got a lot of bodies there and a lot of different body types. And I think then if you don't get one of those guys, then you're looking at a guy like Bravian Roy or guys of that nature down in the draft that you don't necessarily have to take that high. Benito Jones is another guy.
Yeah.
There are some guys there that maybe they don't give you a lot in terms of pass rush, but they'll certainly give you those 25 downs on first and second down when you have to stop the run. They can certainly step in there. If not now, then in the future.
When they signed Chris Wormley, and I was looking at his tape and I was studying it, it really comes off like Chris Wormley's that guy that's going to help them stop the run. Do you think that pick gives them the comfort to maybe go for a guy that's just a more pure pass rusher and says, you know what, we don't need to get the guy that's gonna be the guy that we want to be like a Dan McCullers, what Dan McCullers was supposed to be as far as a huge nose tackle that just stuffs 2 gaps and takes on a double team and keeps them there. They'd rather have the guy that's going to back up to it and Hayward on pass rushing downs and say, hey, get in the middle, cause some havoc, and do what basically Hargrave was able to do. Do you think that Wormley gives them that room to address that, or do you think they're still going to be looking for a balance or kind of just taking who's the best there?
No, I don't think Wormley factors in at all at the nose. Okay. The Ravens played him there a little bit. But that's really not his game. He's more of an end. If you look at his body type, he fits in as a classic 3-4 defensive end. Dick LeBeau would have loved him, taking on the guard and tackle, in that situation. Maybe not necessarily being a great pass rusher, but he'll certainly eat up blocks. But if you put him at the nose, he's going to get double teamed, pushed around a little bit because he is so tall. That's why, to me, Alualu is the guy right now who's your starter there. And then they got to find somebody to back him up, or at the very least, push Daniel McCullers off the roster.
All right, Dale, the pressure is on. The clock's up, and it's time for the Steelers to pick. If you're the GM, who do you take at number 49?
This changes every day, and you've seen it in all of my mocks that I've done
All
leading up to this.
3,000 of them.
I've had a different player there, every time that I've taken. And the reason for that is they're picking 49th.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
so
there are a
hard.
number of different things that could happen ahead of them. I did it yesterday. Matt Williamson and I did a mock draft on the drive on Steelers Nation Radio. And all the top receivers, there were 12 receivers off the board when we got to the Steelers pick, and
Well,
three of the running backs. And so we were left basically with a choice of Edwards-Helaire or Cam Akers. And we took Cam Akers. And there's a reason for that. I like both of those players, but Akers gives you a little bit more of a bigger body guy, a little more speed. I love Hilaire's ability to catch the football, but he's never going to grow to be more than 5'7". And that to me is a bit of an issue. If you look at Akers, he's got a little more juice. I think if you took Akers and you put him in an Ohio State jersey, you would see J.K. Dobbins. I think he has that kind of talent. I think they're very similar. And, his offensive line at Florida State was awful. Ideally, though, if the Steelers want one of those receivers, whether it be Jalen Reagor, whether it be Michael Pittman, whether it be Brandon Ayuk, Denzel Mims, one of those guys, if one of those guys happens to fall to them, they will run the pick in. But it's nice to have that backup, I think, with one of the running backs.
Yeah, I like the running back position as well. I agree. It's like what you've said all offseason. It's about who helps you get touchdowns. And if you get a wide receiver that stretches the field and makes it easier for Ben Roethlisberger to just have a one-hitter quitter type of play, why not take that guy? But also, I look at the running back position. I've been beating the drum for this guy for a while, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he may be small, but I like the way that he processes. I like Cam Akers' athleticism. My biggest concern is because of how bad Florida State's line was. And I remember seeing like their quarterback get sacked like 10 times in the game, and when the offensive lineman tried to help him up, he'd slap their hand away because he was just so fed up with them. But because of that, they ran a lot of option runs with Cam Akers, and you saw a lot of his bigger plays coming in college type offense situations where it isolated a defender who was really out of their element, and he took advantage of that. And not that he couldn't do well without that, but it at least causes a question for me. So now, that makes me a little hesitant on Cam Akers.
He was the number one running back recruit in the country when he came out of high school. Number one.
And that's wild.
I think he could be a special player. He just happened to go when he was making his college choice. I'm sure he thought, hey, I'm going to go to Florida State. They produce all kinds of offensive linemen. That didn't work out so well. But hey, I love Edwards-Helaire as well. He's a very good football player, and if they took him, I wouldn't trash the pick at all. That's just my feeling on it. I've gone back and forth on these guys. Really, if you look at the running backs in this draft, you're splitting hairs with these guys when you're trying to decide which one you would take over the others. It really is. I don't see one that stands out head and shoulders above the others. I have Dobbins rated as my top guy in this draft, but it certainly could have been Swift or Taylor. Taylor's the one to me, though, that 18 fumbles in college to me is a problem.
Yeah, no, it is. It absolutely, and 900 touches. I don't
care about the touches. The touches show me. The touches show me that he's capable of carrying the load.
Okay.
He's going to get 300 touches in the NFL if he's your feature back. So he's shown that he can do that and be able to stand up to that. I don't know. For example, I saw in your thing today that you have Anthony McFarland as a potential late round guy. He never touched the ball more than 10 times in a game in college.
Right.
That tells me that his coaching staff in college didn't think that he could be that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he's more of a gadget type player. With Taylor, I know that he can handle the load. With J.K. Dobbins, I know that he can handle the load.
Absolutely.
Really, with any of those top five guys, I know they can handle the load because they've done it time and again.
You top six, you throw in Zach Moss, I think.
Yeah, Zach Moss too.
Yeah, you throw it in there. But that's
why Dillon is in that category as well.
Dillon's in there. But that's why I said with my sleeper picks, I think it behooves the Steelers to get a running back early, because if they get another late running back, Dale, that's just doing what they did to get Benny Snell, Jalen Samuels. Right. Why not get the guy that's definitely going to be your ace, or have a much higher percentage chance of being your ace in the backfield, and to make sure that they take over the ground game for them. I think that's a more logical move.
Or better yet, they could take a wide receiver with pick number 49, and then immediately get on the phone with the Jacksonville Jaguars
and get
and trade a 6th-round pick or some kind of pick, for Leonard Fournette, take him on for the year, and see where it goes from there.
That'd be insane. Dale, last question: If all your offensive guys are off the board, is there a defensive player that's on your mind for that 2nd-round pick that would even be worth it?
I mean, Zach Bond is the guy that I like the best of those guys that may go in the 30s. I don't see him falling to 49, but he's kind of been my draft crush of late because I look at him and I see Chad Brown. I see a guy capable of rushing off the edge or being a guy that you line up inside early in his career, and maybe he helps you there. The rest of it may be one of the safeties. I like Antoine Winfield the best of that group. But Delpit certainly, is a good player as well. I don't like McKinney quite as much, but certainly I can see why people would like him. I hate all the edge rushers.
Yeah,
people were talking about in that 2nd round. Uche's not an edge rusher. Uche's Lawrence Timmons.
Yeah.
If you tell me that you're going to draft Uche and you're going to put him at inside linebacker, I'm fine with that. But don't tell me that you're taking him to put him as an edge rusher, because Michigan didn't ask him to do it. If you watch his Michigan tape, he very rarely lines up on the edge, right straight up on a tackle and rushes. I saw that with Bond. I didn't see that with Uche.
I agree with you on that assessment. That's why a lot of mock drafts I was seeing for months were saying Steelers edge rusher, and even after
Bradley
It makes no sense. It makes no sense that the value's not there for it.
Value's in the 3rd round with those guys, 3rd and 4th rounds.
Exactly, and that's where I think I think that you could get a guy that's going to be able to help you. Alex Highsmith, maybe a Darrell Taylor, some of the guys I was breaking down in my sleeper article. But you're right. I think that the value's there back there. And now you have a question like, okay, now we're bringing some depth to the edge rusher position. So this guy comes to the camp. If he does well, we at least have a guy we can just plug in there to give Dupree and Watt some breathers.